of breast cancer. She's from Wrightstown, Wisconsin. She is also the Wisconsin State Lead Ambassador for the American Cancer Society. She's a past Reach to Recovery volunteer for the American Cancer Society. She's now retired, a special education teacher, a union activist for the Kokahana. Did I say that right?
Kokana.
Kokana. I was close.
Yeah, it sounds like it's in Hawaii.
But the school district that she's been representing for 28 years. Please welcome Kathy Hansen.
Thank you for that very kind introduction. And I want to thank all of you, coaches and guests, for being here tonight and for everything you do to support the American Cancer Society and its mission. 9 years ago at this time, I was about in the middle of my chemotherapy, 6 months of chemotherapy. I was bald. I had lost my hair pretty early on, and so by summer I was used to being bald. In fact, I was so used to it I couldn't remember what it was like to have hair. My eyelashes and eyebrows were starting to disappear, and I really looked and felt like a cancer patient. Thankfully, that's 9 years in the past, and I don't look or feel that way today. But let me take you back to the beginning of my story. It was in March 2003 when I got a call back after an annual screening mammogram, routine mammogram. I met with the radiologist, and all I really remember of that conversation was suspicious and biopsy. That was the first of many instances when I learned that I was going to have to reconcile what I expected from what the reality turned out to be. My doctors, my husband, and I expected that suspicious area would turn out to be nothing, but the biopsy came back positive for breast cancer. Based on the mammogram and a physical exam, we expected that a lumpectomy would remove one small tumor. But when the surgeon got in there, he found one large tumor, about 3 times bigger than we expected, and several small tumors. We expected that the cancer was confined to my breast, but in fact, it had already spread into my lymph system. We expected that the lumpectomy would be followed by radiation, but instead I faced 8 rounds of chemotherapy. We expected that the cancer had removed, that the surgery had removed all the cancer in my breast, but it hadn't. And so after I finished my chemotherapy, I faced a second lumpectomy. And then we expected that the follow-up mammograms, ultrasounds, breast MRIs would be conclusive about the presence of any residual cancer in my breast and the possibility of any cancer in my other breast, but they weren't conclusive. And so I ended up having both breasts removed. My whole cancer experience can kind of be summed up by expect the unexpected. But one thing I discovered I could expect and rely on was that the American Cancer Society would be with me throughout my cancer experience. When I was first diagnosed, I knew that knowledge was a way for me to face my fears of the unknown. And so I read booklets put out by ACS. I went to Cancer.org, the American Cancer Society's website, and I met with a Reach to Recovery volunteer. And during treatment, I continued to get help and support from the American Cancer Society. I went through a Look Good, Feel Better session where I learned to deal with the fact that I was bald and my skin was very different during chemotherapy. And I ordered some products from the TLC catalog, which provides products for women who are going through breast cancer or any kind of cancer. I also discovered that cancer is more than a physical trauma. Healing has to occur emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, and sometimes that's as difficult or even more difficult than the physical healing. I had wonderful help and support along the way, first and always from my incredible husband, Kevin. Together, we have faced all the pitfalls along this road, giving each other strength, comfort, counsel, and hope. My fellow cancer patients and survivors, also gave me invaluable support. I'm currently taking medication to reduce my risk of a recurrence, and I live every day with the side effects of my treatment, but the key word is live. I'm alive today because of the research and screening that showed mammograms can find cancers earlier so more women survive. I'm alive because of advances in biopsies and surgical techniques. I'm alive because of discoveries of new chemotherapies and hormonal therapies. And I'm lowering my risk of recurrence not only through medication, but also through evidence-based knowledge about the importance of diet and exercise. But I would be remiss if I left you with the idea that research has given us all the answers we need about cancer. In 2006, my mother was diagnosed with cancer that had already spread throughout her body. She lived less than 3 months, partly because the doctors could not determine with certainty where her cancer had started or what kind of cancer it was. And so her treatment was based on their best guess. When we can't even answer that basic question, what kind of cancer is this? Well, that's an indication of how much more we have to learn and how important cancer research is. I will tell you that cancer no longer dominates my life the way it did in 2003, but I will not tell you that I'm back to normal. One of the most difficult lessons I learned was that there is no going back. So although cancer is no longer front and center in my life, it is and always will be part of my life. I am not one of those people who will ever say, having cancer was such a gift. But the volunteer work I do with ACS, with its advocacy affiliate, the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, and other cancer-related organizations, gives me a way to make something positive come out of that cancer experience. I want to thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to share my story with you, and I want to thank you again for everything you do in the fight against cancer. Thank you.
Jim, I know we have a ball to give to Kathy. Is it one of the balls up here? I don't want to take them.
If we could have the chairman of the NABC, or the NABC board member and the chairman of the Coaches vs. Cancer Council, Phil Martelli, please present this award.
Phil, can you come forward, please?
Oh, cool. Well, thank you. All right.
Right there, look straight ahead. There we go.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
You did a nice job.
You can look at him, that's all right. I look at him all the time.
Phil never saw Henry didn't like.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.